We shall now, I'd like to now welcome the Cloud Management Insider team, CMI. CMI is an exclusive cloud community by the geeks for the geeks. They exist with the sole purpose of simplifying the complex cloud ecosystem, and they have been serving the generation geek with information that shapes up the cloud domain. We are very grateful to CMI team for providing us such an amazing platform to inform, inspire, and engage. Allow me a few seconds to introduce myself. My name is Amit Kumar, and I am an AWS APN ambassador. The APN ambassador is a community of technical experts in the AWS partner consulting community. I have a decade of experience solutioning and consulting both on premise as well as cloud for enterprises. I'm a cloud enthusiast, and I really love to help my clients and to all the users in to help them adopt AWS public cloud. Right. So here's the agenda. We're all good to start now. The first section is going to be all about AWS public cloud. We will sneak peek into AWS public cloud platform in order to understand what are its offerings. We will touch base upon some of the basics, the core services of AWS, not all of it. And then we will proceed to see two demonstrations. One of the demonstration will be hosting of a web application on AWS using Lightsail, and then the other demo will be to host a chatbot on AWS using the Lex chatbot service. The sole purpose of these demonstrations is to help you understand how quickly it is, how AWS public cloud platform allows you to quickly start an application and go global with the same, right? Further, in the last two sections of this bootcamp, I will be talking about the career outlook in the public cloud technology and the certification guidelines. I'd be sharing my experiences. I'd be sharing some guidelines, tips on how to prepare for this certification, how to go about it. Right. So let's get started. We will start by, as I said, sneaking into the AWS public cloud. Now, before even we understand what is AWS public cloud platform, I'd like to spend a few minutes on in ensuring that the differentiation between the data center and the public cloud is really very clear, right? Only then you'll be able to differentiate between the benefits and the real reason why everybody, the entire, all the enterprises are very aggressively moving on to the public cloud, right? So what is it? What is a data center made up of? Data center is nothing but where you host all your servers, your storages, and networking. So what is it that it is really made up of, right? So it's nothing but starting with the real estate. Of course, you need space to host all of the infrastructure components. You have your servers, you have the switches, routers, firewalls for your security. Then you have the storages to store your data. Then you require power to keep all of this running. Then, of course, you need a huge amount of investment to keep build up cooling towers and then you have security guards. Now, security, of course, in terms of the data security and also the physical security. All of this put together is a data center. Now, this data center can be privately owned. As an enterprise, one can build up their own data center, or then there are co-location providers wherein big players, they invest in all their money, they build up a data center, and then they lease out to all the other companies. So in both the forms, this is all on-premise. Now the question here is, if this is data center, what is cloud made up of? Don't be surprised, it's the same components. Nothing has changed actually when I say, I'm going to host your infrastructure on the cloud. The underlying components of real estate, routers, switches, servers, and every other thing that you have seen in data center remains the same, right? But what has changed is the way these services will be consumed, right? I will now take you to the definition of public cloud platform as per the US National Institute of Standards and Technology. What they say is, of course, with the whole set of infrastructure that I have listed down over here, with the same set of infrastructure, if the consumer, the user of this infrastructure gets to use it on demand and in a self-service form, which means I want a server only for an hour, so I should be paying only for that hour, and I should be able to create it on my own. I should be able to spin up a server on my own without any dependency. This is criteria one. Second, criteria 2 is access from anywhere. Now, AWS Cloud Platform, or in fact, any public cloud platform, provides you with a console wherein you can just log in. You will see that in the demonstration. And with few clicks, you'll be able to spin up a server and then start using it. So you can access it from anywhere, unlike the data centers, the on-premise infrastructure, wherein you have to establish a connectivity, then raise a request with them to provision the server, and then you are able to connect. It takes hours and sometimes even days, right? The third point is the provider, right? And now in this case, we are talking about the public cloud provider. The provider has a pool of all these resources which will be allocated to the customer, which in other form means that I don't have to procure, purchase any of this infrastructure. I simply have to request it from a pool which is managed, maintained, purchased, procured by the public cloud provider. The fourth is elasticity. I should be able to scale up and scale down. Think of a Flipkart big billion day sale. If this infrastructure is to be running on premise, imagine just for one big billion day sale, which happens particularly once in a year or twice a year, I don't really remember. But for that, the amount of servers that Flipkart has to spin up is huge and enormous. Now, if this has to be run on premise, then Flipkart has to invest that much amount. But what will happen to that infrastructure once the big billion day sale is over? They'll have to have it. I mean, it will all lie down wasted, right? But with the public cloud platform, you have the option to spin up infrastructure on demand, scale it up anytime you want, and then scale it down as well. In fact, this is done in an automated fashion, right? The fifth and the most important thing, you pay only for what you are using. It's not that take an example of laptop, right? Whether you after you purchase your laptop, whether you're using it or not, you have already paid for it. Same happens with on-premise infrastructure. We all plan for 3 years, 5 years down the line. With that in mind, we size our number of cores, I mean the CPU cores, your RAM, your disk size. But then of course you're not going to use all of that on the first day, or in fact in the first year itself, which means you're paying upfront, but you're not using it. But with cloud, you pay only for what you use. In fact, you pay per second. There are services which are billed per second. There's services which are billed per hour, and you pay only for what you have provisioned and for the amount of time that you have used. In contrast to this, what is it with data center? You have to plan and provision. You have to plan for the infrastructure, have a sizing, created for 3 or 5 years, and then the access, as I was mentioning earlier, is restricted only to your enterprise network. Which means if you are in a different globe, different part of the world, you'll not be able to access it directly. It's a private infra. It's owned by one, and it is not a pool which will be allocated to others. Then scale up and scale down has to be planned. In fact, scale up can be planned, but scale down is not possible. Once you have invested in the infra, you have to live with it. And then it's an upfront investment. There is no pay-as-you-go option, right? So these are the major differences between a data center and cloud. And because of all of these benefits, enterprises are now very aggressively adopting cloud. In fact, while we speak, there's already an enormous amount of adoption that has happened. Large infrastructures have already moved onto the cloud, and this is really going to continue at a fast pace in the coming months and years, right? Why public cloud? So if you are on premise, you have to spend time and money, both 70% of your time and money, on managing that infrastructure. So you remember the blocks that I had shown in the previous slide. All of those blocks have to have expertise, a team focusing only on that block. But with cloud, since all of this is being managed by the public cloud provider, you get time for your business innovation. You get time to develop, to think, to innovate, to ideate. And the management of cloud infrastructure is hardly 30%. The rest of it is taken care by the public cloud provider. The availability of it, the security of it, disaster of it, everything with them, right? So that's why we are all, enterprises, businesses are adopting to public cloud, because they want to invest more time in innovating and ideating rather than managing the IT infrastructure. Right. I just forgot to mention that you can post your questions. I will take all of that in the Q&A part. This is just being done in this form so that we can manage the time. right? So you can, as your questions come in mind, you can post it on the channel itself, and I will be working with the coordinator, and I will be picking up those questions, and we will discuss that at the end of the session in the Q&A part, right? So okay, now we are into AWS. Now we are starting to sneak into AWS global infrastructure. Now, AWS global infrastructure is logically divided into multiple regions, right? A multiple region is nothing but a logical definition of a global region. So, like for example, here we have Mumbai region, and then the closest region to Mumbai is Singapore. Likewise, there are multiple regions. I will give you the statistics in a short while. What is a region? What does a region comprise of? It consists of multiple availability zones. So there's availability zone 1, 2, and so you'll have multiple zones. Minimum 2 availability zones would be there in a region. Now, and what is availability zone? One availability zone is actually a cluster of data centers. Now, all of these availability zones are connected to each other with a very low latency network. In fact, the network bandwidth, connectivity in between this availability zone is such that you can actually implement clusters of your database in two different availability zones. Now, imagine the amount of fault tolerance you are achieving. You are running one part of your your database cluster in one availability zone and the other one in the other availability zone. So that's the beauty of this logical construct of logical and the physical construct of AWS global infrastructure. So every region will have availability zone, and each zone is nothing but a cluster of data centers, right? So this is the map of the AWS. This is the global presence of AWS. They are serving 245 countries. They have 73 availability zones, and which is 2 times more number of regions than their competitors. 23 regions, which means 23 geographical regions with 4 new regions announced. And then these are direct connects. So direct connect I will be covering in one of the slides going ahead. This is a way to connect your enterprise, your physical enterprise network to AWS directly, so that you have a dedicated connectivity with good bandwidth and good security. And then you have points of presence. Again, we have a slide dedicated on this, which is related to the content distribution network. We call it CDN. So they have 216 such points of presence across the globe. So this is the global construct, the global presence of AWS public cloud platform. Okay. So what services are we going to cover in this session? As I said, I mean, AWS has a vast services, a huge number of services, but yes, we're not going to cover all of it. We are going to focus on some of the core ones. Like, for example, we will first start with the security, identity, and compliance. Then we will go ahead with networking and content delivery. We will talk about the storage services, and then we will talk about the compute services, right? There are many such services. I've understood that the college students are very much interested in the machine learning services. You can go ahead and understand that it's a great completely managed service platform of machine learning, wherein you can focus upon building and training your machine learning models rather than building the infrastructure required for it. Imagine if a student has to do a machine learning experiment, it's practically impossible to arrange an infrastructure of that size and that capability. But with AWS Cloud, be it a student or be it an enterprise, you can just go log in onto the console. Basically, of course, create an account, log in onto the console, and start with the managed machine learning services. So all of these services are all available with few clicks and anywhere across the globe, right? Do let me know if you're facing any challenges in terms of me being audible or the screen or anything of that sort. I will coordinate with the CMI team and make sure that there's no such glitches. So let's start with these services. Okay. So we have these identity services. Identity services is nothing but which helps you create and manage your users who will be logging onto your AWS console, users who would be having certain rights, specific right, or in fact, to use the right term, the least privilege to access certain services. one would be able to allowed to use and access only certain machines and not the others, or only certain services and not the other. So users, and then clubbing them together, put into a group so that they can you can have a common set of rules for those set of users. So identity services, AWS identity service is called IAM, identity and access management, with the help of which you can create IAM users, assign them individual security credentials, your passwords, and multi-factor authentication like your OTP. So you can enable a multi-factor authentication on their phone so that whenever a user is trying to log in onto AWS console, they will feed in their password, and they will also put in the multi-factor MFA code from their mobile phones, just to ensure that there is a two-factor authentication. And then the access keys. So you will require access keys as well to access a lot of other services. So all of this is managed in form of IAM users. Further, you can go ahead to create identity and access management roles. Roles are nothing but a well-defined permission to control which service or which entity is how a particular service is going to talk with the other service. So for which you assign a role. For example, in your college, you can see that you have different roles. You have your principals, you have head of departments, then you have your class prefects, and then you have let's say maybe team lead of certain groups, activity groups, or something of that sort. So these are all roles. Every role has a specific set of actions that they can, or he or she can perform. Similarly, that is something which can be defined in form of roles, and these roles are further assigned to the users. So if I define a role of administrator and I assign it to the user, let's say ABC, then ABC will be able to perform all the administrative tasks on the AWS console, tasks like creation of services, deletion of services, and manipulating those services. If I assign a role to with just read-only access, then that particular user will be only be able to view the services and monitor the services, but not be able to take any action. Right. So that's the definition of identity and access management roles. Federated users. Now, the platform also allows you to create federated users so that you can enable a single sign-on, which means, let's say you have developed an application on this cloud, and you want all your users to log in with their Amazon ID or with their Facebook ID. So you can add all these integrations to your application so that with this ID itself, they can access the services instead of let's say instead of creating users for themselves. Now imagine you're running a web application, you have thousands and lakhs of users. Of course you'll not be creating users, IAM users for them on the cloud. These are all internet users, but your application requires them to log in on it so that they can perform actions like browsing through catalogs, adding them to the cart, and then buying it and things of that sort. You can allow them to create their own username, passwords, or you can allow them to use a Google ID or a Facebook, like you must be doing for many other platforms, which allows you to integrate with these kind of authentication services. So identity services allows you to create federated users as well. Correct. Now, what I'm going to do is with each set of slide, I'm also going to try building an architecture, a very basic architecture, so that you understand that whatever concepts we are going through, whatever concepts we are listening to, how is it that it is being put to practical use? How is it that we are achieving an architecture which will be deployed and then used, right? So until now, we have understood about regions, about availability zones. We have understood about identity services. Now let's see how the architecture is going to be built using these components. Now here, I have created an AWS account. Then I will create users and groups and assign them appropriate roles. And then I will select a region. Now, go back to the point that wherein I said that you can go global with public cloud. Now, what I'm trying to indicate over here by specifying about regions is that you can choose any region across the globe. You saw that there are multiple regions of AWS. Let's say if you have your targeted audience, your targeted users of your application residing in US and not in India. So you can simply go onto this AWS console and switch the region to AWS US region and create your infrastructure over there. This, of course, would not have been possible if you are hosting your infrastructure on premise. But with cloud, you can go global, with a click of a button. You just switch the region, select the services, turn it on, and your infrastructure is up and running. A use case wherein your application is being used across the globe. So you can plan to host this application here in Mumbai, Singapore, or in North Virginia, US region, everywhere in the world, without even spending even a single penny of upfront investment, right? So after creating the account, after creating identity and access management users, you will choose the region. And in that region, you will choose an availability zone. As I said, every region has up to minimum 2 availability zone, and then it can be more. You choose an availability zone in which you want to create your infrastructure, right? So far we have covered only these aspects. So we have drawn the architecture. Now let's see what are the next set of services, right? Of course, I'm just highlighting that there will be internet users for the applications, right? Now, networking, that's the backbone of every infrastructure. Without networking, how will you connect the services? How will you make them communicate? And how will the users connect to it, right? So AWS provides a host of networking services. And now let me tell you, all these services that we are going to cover in this slide, we as users, as I said, be it a student or be it an enterprise, none of us have to spend a single penny to use any of these services. I'm not talking about the billing, by the way. I'm talking about the upfront investment to use a network, to use a domain name service, to use a direct connect service, or to use a content distribution network. I don't have to spend anything. I just have to go, choose, turn it on, and then pay only for the amount of services that I'm going to use. Out of all of this, the virtual private network, as I have mentioned over here, is free of cost. Now, what is this virtual private network? It is a way to isolate a section of your services so that it doesn't talk to another set of services. What does that mean? It is nothing but creating your own network infrastructure. It's like laying down the LAN cables, right? You may have multiple departments in your college. Now, of course, you have multiple departments in your college. Every college may have chosen to have their own lab, saying that this is a lab restricted to computer department, and then there is a lab wherein the mechanical department runs their simulation, and there is absolutely no business for these two labs to communicate with each other. Now what will the college do? They will infrastructure, they will invest into LAN cables and switches, and then develop a LAN, right? This is exactly like, so not exactly, this is pretty much like that. It's like laying down your LAN cables and creating virtual LANs such that only you can segregate your workloads. And that's exactly what you're doing. You can create a VPC, and then within that you will create subnets depending upon the network segmentation that you require. And inside those subnets, you will be turning on your machines or your services. When you see the demo, you'll see what exactly, the idea would be much more clear, right? And let me highlight, for this VPC, you're not going to spend even a single penny. You are going to build a network architecture without spending any amount of money in that. Then you have Route 53. Route 53 is nothing but your domain name service. Anything, your domain name service, so that you can have user-friendly names instead of IPs, and then the domain name service would be provided with the help of this Route 53 service of AWS. It is a very reliable. The first thing I should mention, it's a managed service. Compare it with an on-premise infrastructure. You have to have domain name servers. Then you have to also have ensure redundancy, cluster of such DNS, so that if there's failure, the availability of your applications are not affected. But here in this case, your AWS provides you a completely managed domain name service. There's no server or anything that you need to look at. You just need to go to the console and create your domain name, right? A disclaimer that we don't get a registrar service here. But yes, you can do all your A record mapping or your CNAME mapping, and then use the DNS service for resolving your application IPs, right? It's cost effective, reliable, and you can do all sort of weighted routings, and then geo-based routing, and things of that sort, right? Direct Connect, as I said, Direct Connect is just one of the ways to connect to AWS Cloud from your enterprise, from your office. Enterprises, large corporate networks require a direct connection with the AWS public cloud so that they have a private connectivity instead of their traffic going over the internet. They want a private connectivity. So Direct Connect is a service that AWS provides to establish a dedicated network connection from your premises to AWS. Okay. CloudFront. I mean, before I speak anything about the service, uh, we all know. I mean, in fact, in this lockdown period, we are all watching and utilizing these OTT platforms, your Netflix and the Z5s of the world. How do they serve these contents, the video contents, the series content to all the users without any buffering issues, right? I'm not talking about the buffering that happens before because of the slow network at our home, but the buffering service that these services provide to the users. Now, what typically happens is, let's say if you have all your servers, all your data in just one location, every time somebody is requesting that data, it will first cache and then it will start streaming, right? But a better way is to cache it at a location nearer to the user. So let's say there is a point of presence. We mentioned earlier, right? There are hundreds of point of presence provided by AWS. So if there is a point of presence in Mumbai itself, and the server is in US, like for Netflix, let's say the server is in US, but the point of presence is in Mumbai. So what Mumbai point of presence will do is all the frequently accessed videos and everything will be cached in Mumbai region, so that any user which is trying to access those videos, instead of sending that traffic and sending the data from US, they will be sending it from the Mumbai point of presence, right? This is what CloudFront is. CloudFront is a content delivery network, a CDN, and it's a highly secure and programmable service. Again, you're not investing anything into this. All you have to do is, once you have a website running, and if it has a huge amount of contents, images, and videos, then you can enable this CDN so that your website performance improves and users will start accessing it from a location nearer to them instead of addressing all of this from the central location, right? So that's what the networking services are. Now let's see how all of these services put together uh, uh, creates our architecture, right? Let me just one sec. I'll just check a message from the coordinator. Okay, so there's an announcement. I just want to quickly make that because for all the attendees of this workshop, there's a certificate of participation, and you'll have to fill in the form in the link mentioned in the live comment box. So in the live comment box, there is a link. So please fill in that form so that we can send the certificates of participation of this for this bootcamp. Okay, coming back. Let's see how have we built the architecture. So we discussed about account, we discussed about identity and access management essentials, we discussed about region, availability zone. Here is the VPC. Now I have a virtual private network created, and then I have created two subnets. One is a public subnet and the other one is a private subnet. I will typically use this to host my web application, and I will use a private, basically the web server, and I will use the private subnet to host my application server and the databases, because it should not be exposed to the internet. So I have created all of this, and you will see the usage of this in the demonstration as well. Okay. Okay, and this is something which should come a little later. Pardon me for that. So you have the internet users, whatever server would be placed over here, the resolution for that will happen through Route 53 DNS service. So if the internet user is going to hit abc.com in their web browser, Route 53 will do the DNS resolution and point it to the right server. Okay, so these are the architectural components that we have discussed so far. And the CDN. So CDN will be used to serve all the objects. The S3, as we will discuss in the next slide, S3 is a service for storing all your static objects, your videos and everything. So CDN service will be used to serve all that content from the S3 bucket. Okay. Now let's look at the storage services. So Elastic Block Storage, EBS. What is this? It is nothing but the disk that you attach to your system. It's a block storage such that you can install your operating system, you can install your applications and everything. It's a block-based storage, and this is something which is attached to your machine. You'll learn in the next slide that the servers and the machines on AWS is called EC2. So this elastic block storage is something which is attached to the EC2 machines. It's nothing but the disk, your OS disk and your data disk. It is used. It's local storage for EC2. You can use it for your relational databases, for your NoSQL databases, for your data warehousing solutions. Everything, all the data is being stored on this elastic block storage. Simple way to remember is that this is your disk. Okay, now this disk can come in various forms. You get in magnetic form, you get a magnetic disk, you get a general purpose disk also, and you get your SSD, general purpose SSD, and you also get a provision disk. Now, what is a provision disk? Let's say you need or probably, let's say, you when you go to buy a laptop now, you always have a choice to purchase between an HDD and an SSD. Why do you choose an SSD over an HDD? Simply because it gives you a better performance. And why is it that it gives a better performance? Because it has a higher IOPS provision to it, input and output per second. Right now, AWS EBS also comes in different forms. Your general purpose SSD also gives you a good IOPS. And then, but let's say with just 100 GB, you want 3000 IOPS or 30,000 IOPS, then you can go with the provisioned IOPS. Provisioned IOPS allows you to define the IOPS that you require. So with a 100 GB, you can define a 6,000, 9,000, 30,000 of IOPS to it, right? So that you can improve the performance of that. Simple storage. Think of it like your a portable disk wherein you are going to store all your files, your photographs, your videos. Think of it like your Google Drive. Okay, I'm not comparing it with the service. Uh, one-to-one comparison, but it's similar to that. You can use an S3 bucket to dump in all these objects. And please note that I'm not talking about application right now. I'm not saying that you can run applications on this, you can install application on this. You can only store files, your notepad files, your Excel files, Word files, your PDFs, images, and your content, right? So it's a scalable and a durable platform. It provides 11 nines of durability. What does an 11 9 means? 99.999. You can count it 9 more times. That's the 11 9 durability that it provides, which means there's hardly any chance of losing a data on that, right? But you can lose a data on your disk if it goes corrupted, and including your portable disk if it gets corrupted. So you can, right ahead, go ahead, create an account and start storing your data on S3 bucket because you can get a high durability. Make sure that you mark it private, and because if it is public, everybody will start accessing your data, right? Then there's a service called as Glacier. You must have heard the term archiving, right? Many a times, particularly, let's say, in the healthcare industry, in the finance industry, you need to maintain certain amount of data for a longer duration. It could be for years, 7 years, 14 years, depending upon the compliance and the regulatory requirements. Now, what do you do with this data? If there are TBs and TBs of data, if you store it on a disk, it's going to be a huge cost. Disk is the costliest storage medium. So what do typically people do is, companies do, they transfer this information, this data onto a tape drive. You all must have seen tape drive at some point in time. It's a magnetic strip, right? And that's the cheapest storage medium. So similar to that, AWS also provides an S3 Glacier. Glacier is an archiving service. It's a very cheap, I'm not going to talk about the pricing now, but let me make an exclamatory statement that it's really very cheap. You can store TBs of data in just few dollars, and have it safe and secure there and access it when you want, only when you want. Typically, archive data are not accessed frequently, and they are required to be maintained for years and years. And that's why AWS provides this Amazon Glacier service, a highly affordable, as it is mentioned, a highly affordable long-term storage class, which can replace the tape, right? I mentioned on-premise, they use a tape for archiving. And what's the purpose of this? What is the use case for this? It's used for, you require to store this data for regulatory reasons, compliance reasons. Healthcare industry has compliances, HIPAA compliances, and then the fintech the finance industry has compliances that you have to store. Insurance domain, they have the compliances that you have to store the information of all the clients for years and years, right? For auditing purpose. So you can use it over here without paying that hefty amount. Before we get onto the architecture, let me cover a few services and then we will complete our architecture. Okay. As I mentioned, this is the server, Elastic Compute Cloud. This is the server. There are, if I have to really count the number of service type, the number of server types that are available. So, one second, let me just fetch that information. So there are two. I'm just on the web page of AWS. There are 275 instances, instance type. Now, when I say instance type, EC2 is available in various configuration. You can start with half a GB RAM, and then you can go. You can create instances with more than 700 GBs, and then put it together in auto scaling to achieve TBs of RAM. So it is available in multiple configurations. It's a secure and resizable compute capacity. You can launch your applications whenever needed without any upfront commitment. Now, this is where the power of cloud comes in. If I have to run an application, let's take for an example, a WordPress website has to be created. The first thing that I will need is a server on which I will be installing the WordPress. I'll be installing the databases that I need require to run along with my application and everything. But here, as you will see in the demonstration, it hardly takes few minutes with the help of a light sail service. So this is nothing but your server. You can run any of your operating system. Think of Windows, Red Hat, SUSE Linux, your Ubuntu, your CentOS. You can run any of the databases. You can run any applications. Install your application development in the IDEs, the development environments, or things of that sort, and start using it. Okay. And then light sail. It's again a managed service, which is a combination of servers, storage, database, and networking at a very low price. Think of developers who do not understand infrastructure, do not understand networking, and they don't even need to know. Their core competency is development. Their core competency is to work in hosting their application. Then why should they be bothered about creating the servers and the network? And in fact, once you have created, you also have to manage it. So Lightsail is a service. You will see in the demonstration that you can, within few minutes, you can have a WordPress web application up and running. This is my favorite, and it's really favorite of many other developers. This is AWS Lambda, and the other word is serverless. You don't need servers at all. You want to develop an application on .NET, you want to develop an application on Java, on Python, just go ahead, write your code, and use the Lambda services. Every time there is a call, an API call, Lambda will execute that code. Okay, what is there in the backend need not be bothered. Of course, I mean, in the backend, it's the servers that AWS has been using to provide the compute, but that is not our lookout. Now we have gone to the next level, wherein we are not even talking about servers. We are not even talking about operating systems and managing the operating system patching, the availability. Sometimes, you get complaints that my server is not responding because it is hung. Go ahead and reboot it and things of that sort. I just want to focus as a developer. I just want to focus on writing my code, and that's what AWS Lambda provides. Just write your code, put it on the AWS Lambda service, and every time you make a call, you request the code, it will execute. And the most beautiful part of this is that you pay only when the request is executed. You don't have to pay for entire time when your machines are running, when your operating systems are running. There's no licensing fee, nothing that you have to pay. You have to pay every time you execute, only when you execute the Lambda, right? Relational database. Now, trust me, this is one of the most widely used and one of the best services which everybody around the globe are using. Relational database service, but this is a completely managed service. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's take an example that you want to run Microsoft SQL database, just for an example. Okay, what do you require? You require a server, then you will install a Windows operating system on it, then you will go ahead to install your Microsoft SQL database on it, and then you start creating your databases into it, the tables and everything of that sort. Now, as a database administrator, your core competency is just managing that database. Who will manage that operating system? Who will manage that server? Who will patch the servers? Who will patch the databases? And then you need to again add an additional overhead of taking backups of your database, because that database is very critical. You have to take backups of your transactions. You have to take a completely full backup of your database, so that in case if there is an accidental deletion or corruption, you should be able to restore it. But who's going to do that? There's a lot of overhead. You require multiple teams to take care of it. Now, AWS says that leave all of that to AWS. AWS will manage the operating system. AWS will manage the database backup, availability of it, fault tolerance of it. All you have to do is spin up the service, log in onto the database, and start creating your database and writing your queries. You always have to be only worried about writing your queries and creating your databases. Now imagine the amount of time that was being spent in the overhead of managing the database software, the operating system, and the servers. All of that amount can now be used to further refine your databases, make the queries more efficient, improve the performance of it, because you have time. You have time to innovate. You have time to ideate, things of that sort. That's why a relational database service is being used. It makes it easy to set up, operate, and scale a relational databases. You can create a database cluster with just few clicks. Anybody who has tried to create a cluster will understand the pain of creating a cluster. More than that, I mean, in my experience, I've seen 100% of the times the clusters have issues during failovers, failbacks, and so do the database administrators. They too face a lot of problems. But here you can create a cluster. It's called multi-AZ. Remember when we were talking about availability zones, I said that you can create cluster in 2 different availability zones without any network latency. Imagine a primary node of your database is in availability zone A, and then the secondary node of your database cluster is in availability zone 2. For some reason, that entire availability zone goes down. Let's say there's a disaster, a flood, or an earthquake, and your availability zone 2 is still there, and your database will be up and running. There's a fire incident in the availability zone because of which the infrastructure is not available. You still have the node 2 available in availability zone 2. So you can create this kind of cluster. It's called multi-AZ with just few clicks. Then there is an option called as read-only replica, wherein, let's say, you are hosting an application wherein the read traffic is really high, and you wish to improve the performance by segregating these requests such that all the write requests will come to the primary database and all the read requests will go only to the read replicas. With just few clicks, you can create multiple read replicas, and imagine the amount of performance improvement that you'll see, because your read traffic is now going to these read replicas of your primary database, and the write traffic is going to your primary database. There's segregation, and hence there is an improvement in the performance as well. All of this can be achieved with just few clicks. You would not be able to do this on premise. In fact, think of creating a read replica on premise. If you want to create, you'll have to invest you'll have to invest in managing, maintaining those many number of servers, right? But not with RDS. It's a completely managed platform. Now let's see how our architecture looks like. We've covered up till here. After that, what we have added is we have added EC2, which is nothing but my server. I have the OS disk, and I have the data disk, and then I have a managed database called AWS RDS, Relational Database Service. And here I'm running the MySQL database. Okay, this is how my users would access my application. Now my application is live. Now imagine I am running my application without any upfront investment. I'm going to pay for this only when I turn on these services. And the beautiful part of this, let's say if this was a small experiment, I was doing it only for just some testing purpose, all I have to do and go ahead and delete this, and I don't have to pay for it anymore. So or probably look at it the other way. If you have to do an experiment and you have failed, I mean, let's say that the results of the experiments were not as expected, and the inferences are negative. What would you have done if you had purchased this infrastructure on premise in a data center? you have wasted your money. But here you can simply go ahead and delete it, which means the cost of failure, the cost of experimentation is really very low. Now this further promotes, encourages people to take up newer projects, do their R&D, and then exit without any wastage or any further investments. Okay. So just a disclaimer that this is an architecture which is created for illustration purpose. This is not a complete one. There are many other components that have to be put together in order to make this, in order to take care of the connectivity, the security, the availability, and the disaster recovery part of it. But this is just to demonstrate that how some of these basic concepts can be put together to achieve a very simple two-tier application. Okay. So here it is. AWS is the leader. This is the Magic Quadrant for cloud infrastructure as a service worldwide, and AWS is the leader. Since years until date, AWS is the leader in the Magic Quadrant. They offer pay-as-you-go service for all their services. 175 fully featured services for a wide range of technologies, industries, and use cases. We will discuss about some use cases going ahead. And then it has the most extensive and reliable and a secure global cloud infrastructure. We saw the construct of the infrastructure, right? That how vast it is and how easy it is to use that. Okay. Just one moment. So here we are. These are the use cases that AWS. I mean, just few of it. There are hundreds of customers on AWS Cloud. Just a few ones to list. This is a fintech company which collects and analyzes a lot of brokerage transactions daily on AWS. Coursera is a very famous platform for online learning, and they are handling half a petabyte of traffic. Imagine the amount, the enormous size of traffic that is hitting Coursera, and they are managing all of it without any glitch on AWS. Then Airbnb, we all know, they are all running this entire infrastructure with only a few set of engineers. I mean, how interesting it is. With just few set of infrastructure, they are running an application which is hosting a business across the globe. We all know how successful Airbnb is. And then Expedia, again, a travel portal into the travel industry, a very good name. Then Shell is using AWS for all their cybersecurity threat. They are doing all proactive identification of their cybersecurity threat. They are collecting all the data points in a real-time fashion, processing it through their SIM service, which is hosted on AWS, and they are able to detect proactively all the cybersecurity threats. So these are some of the use cases. I would highly recommend that you go onto the AWS site and read these use cases. There are use cases, there are white papers written on it. It is a great great way of learning. Of course, first we will cover how you have to get started with some of the free learning courses. How should we get started with the basics of AWS, and then going further, I would highly recommend that you go ahead and read these use cases, and then understand the architectures, and then also understand read the white papers to learn in depth about each of the services. F1, who doesn't know about F1? F1 is using AWS for their live strategies. What they are doing is, let me just read out it exactly. The Formula One Grand Prix, this event, this every car that we see in this Grand Prix, it uses 120 sensors, and imagine the amount of data it generates. It generates 1.1 million telemetry data points per second, and this is transmitted from the car to the pits. Now, with AWS SageMaker is a machine learning services, as I had mentioned some time back. It allows you to build and train all your machine learning models. So all of this data is being used in the SageMaker machine learning service, and then combined with that, they are able to do a trackside decision, live. They are able to strategize, give inputs, and then they combine all of the information. Something like example, the steering angle, as I'm reading over here, the engine speed, the G-force, the fuel usage, and things of this sort. They understand the diagnostics of the track, All of this put together, they do a lot of interesting strategizing of these race, right? They're basically getting in a lot of action on the track with the help of AWS. This F1 Insights is completely powered by AWS. So let's get started with the live demonstration. As I said, before we go ahead, let me just highlight what is it that we should infer from this demonstration. We will understand how easy it is to innovate. In fact, rather I should say how fast it is to innovate, because you can start your application, choose the service which is suitable for your use case. With few clicks, you'll turn it on, and then you can start doing your R&D. Right, so it innovate it fastens the innovation. The go-to market becomes very quick. You can go global any minute. You can start your service here in India. As you start to see traction, you see that there are global users coming in. You can go ahead and spin up your services, your application anywhere on the globe. Okay, no overhead of infra provisioning and management. In fact, I should say no overhead of infrastructure procurement, purchase. You don't have to purchase anything. And then the cost of failure is low, as I mentioned some time back. So these are some of the inferences. So let's go to the demonstration. I will cover 3 quick demonstrations. One, I will create just one server to show you how quick it is to create a server. Then I will show how to start a WordPress, how to go live with WordPress with just few clicks. Then I will also show you one chatbot. Okay. I have my console open over here, so you can see this is my console. I have logged in onto AWS console. Let me just first show you how this looks like. AWS console. Maybe I think it will open to my. But since it's already logged in, this is how you. Okay, right. Okay, it's already logged in. So and I don't want to show my username. Okay, so I'm not going to do the login activity. So this is the landing page. Here you can see all the services. We said, right, there are a host of services: compute, blockchain, security and identity management. Look at this: quantum technology services, satellite services, containers, your storage services, databases, migration. When you want to migrate a large set of data, when you want to migrate on-premise service onto the cloud, there are migration services, automated migration services, networking. We spoke about this VPC, Route 53, CloudFront, and everything else. Then there are developer tools. A lot of like you can see this Cloud9. This is a integrated development environment. You don't have to really install anything or run any servers. You can start with that. I would highly encourage that you go ahead and use this Cloud9 service as well. Robotics, people must be, I mean, your engineering students, you must be all interested in robotics. Go try this out, RoboMaker. You can create your games over here. You can run all your analytics, your big data, your data lakes, IoT related tons of services, right? IoT is a great thing that is being right now gaining traction in the market, and it is only going to increase more and more as time passes. Look at this host of services for machine learning. Think of this: if you have to do a machine learning experiment only for the sake of it, the compute size that is required is something which is beyond our pockets, right? But here you can go ahead and use these. All of these are managed services. Your Poly, this is your text to speech engine. You just write your text and it converts it into a text, and now it has also added Hindi as a language. You have Lex. This is what we are going to cover as a demo. You can go ahead and create a chatbot. You don't really have to write an application to construct a chatbot. First invest a time to write a chatbot, and then invest time in invest time in modeling that chatbot with utterances and responses. You can just go ahead and turn it on, and then focus your entire time only on writing the utterances and the responses to that, right? Fraud detector. There are tons of services already available in machine learning. I'm very sure I learned that a lot of you students are interested in machine learning. Please go ahead and explore these services. Augmented and virtual reality services are there. Mobile application services. Then you have services for cost management and security and identity services, right? So let's now go ahead to the demo. As I said, I will first show you how to create a server, and here we will see that I'm in front of you. I am not paying anything to anybody to purchase a hardware, to establish my cabling and establish my networking and anything of that sort, all I'm going to do is, right? Do I have any running instances? I just show you. So it's clearly showing me there are no services. All I have to do is launch. I will just go through the default options just to make it quick. Now, I mentioned that there are tons of services, tons of, these are all images. So if you want to start a Red Hat server, a SUSE server, an Ubuntu, or a Microsoft Windows server, it's all available. There are servers, images for deep learning, right? And things of that sort. You can choose something. I will just choose one which is free tier eligible. Let me just mention, when you create an account on AWS, you get to log in with a free tier eligibility for 1 year. There are, I mean, you'll have to go through the free tier eligibility conditions. There are tons of services with stipulated and restricted times of usage in terms of hours. If you're using it within that hours, you will not be paying anything. I will at the end show you my billing console also. I'm using this since last 3 months and my bill is 0. Okay. So you would really love that. I'm doing a lot of experimentation without paying anything to AWS, right? As I said, there are tons of, there are host of the service options. Let's see what's the largest size in the. See, the smallest size available is, now you have 3,904 GB of machine. Can you think of running an experiment with this amount of a 3 TB GB? Absolutely not. Look, think of the cost that you would be investing. And then the smallest size is 0.5 GB, right? Let me select this one for the demo purpose. I will. Okay, I will just choose all the default ones. This is the network. So did I do any designing of the network? Did I invest anything into my LAN cables or switches or routers? Nothing. This is, so when you create an AWS account, you get a default one. I've not created a custom one, but you can create your own custom network the way you want to design it. You may have your enterprise standards. You can create your own network, but I'm using the default network. And what subnet am I using? I'm using subnet any one of this. These are all different networks in different availability zone. I can choose any availability zone to spin up my infrastructure. I will assign a public IP. I mean, something of that sort. I mean, let's leave all of this. Let's not get into that. So what did we see? We saw, we chose an image of a type. We chose an Amazon Linux instead of the other Linux. We chose a server type. We chose the free tier server type with a core and RAM configuration. Now what we are going to do is we are going to add a disk. Let's say this becomes my data disk. And as I said, there are multiple types. You have HDD, you have magnetic, cold, and then you have general purpose, you have provision. When I say provision, I can specify the amount of IOPS that I want to achieve. Specify anything. If you choose the general purpose, it takes a default. So you can see what it shows. A baseline of 3 IOPS per GB with minimum of 100 IOPS is what is provided. IOPS is nothing but your input and output per second. Look at this. I can encrypt my disk and I'm not investing anything. You're seeing me, I'm doing this live in front of you. I'm not going to invest anything. I'm not going to invest in an encryption service. I'm not going to create an encryption server, buy an encryption license or something of that sort. I'm just encrypting my disk without any upfront investment. Tag is nothing but a labeling. I can, let's say, name, and this is my test server. Okay. Configure security group. This is the rule that I'm going to define, my network rule. Should I allow port 22? Yes. Should I allow, let's say, an HTTPS traffic? Yes, to the entire internet. So let's allow that. Okay. And launch. Okay. It is asking me to create a new pair of keys. Now, why are these keys required? When you do an SSH through the port 22, when you try to log in onto it as an admin for your administrative task, it will ask you for that key. By the way, this is not the best method. There is a service called as Session Manager, which allows you to connect to your server without opening the port 22, right? So that's one of the best ways. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch my server. That's it. It just took me a few clicks, and you will see in my console, the provisioning has started. It will take a few minutes, right? So the instant state, once that has happened, you will start seeing this. Okay. all this IP and everything would be provisioned. Parallelly, let's do a web hosting also. We will start the other demo as well. Let's open another page. While this is still, the instance state goes to from pending to when it gets provisioned, we'll come back to this console. Let's look at the other service which I was talking about. All you have to do is, I mean, don't you think this is easy? I have a use case. Let's say, for example, for machine learning, I will click the service and start working on it. I have a use case to host, let's say, your event. If you have your next tech event and you want to host a website for that, a promotion page for that, let's go to Lightsail and create a a server with WordPress on it, and then host it for myself with just few dollars. You can very clearly see the pricing for that. So I just went to Lightsail page. I am clicking on create an instance. My location is India. I am selecting my platform. I have the option to select Linux or Windows. Then and I want whether I want only the OS so that I can install the application of my choice, or I want to start with a combination of application plus OS. So whatever image I want to choose, so you can build up your own mean stack, your Drupals, your Node.js, your LAMP stack, or your WordPress. Let's, for the sake of this demo, pick up WordPress. Okay, I have looked at this and everything, right? You see the cost of this. The first month is free, by the way. For your tech fest, when you host your promotion page, go ahead and use this light sale without investing anything, with a high availability and everything all bundled together. You don't have to really worry about creating the networks or anything. You're seeing this right in front of your eyes. I'm not creating any networks. I'm not creating any server. I'm just choosing the service with application of WordPress along with the OS Ubuntu. And after the first month has crossed, I will be paying $3.5 of amount. Okay, let's go to create instance. It's pending. It's going to host. So they are asking me to go to GoDaddy and register a DNS or something of that sort. Ignore that part. So this is pending. This is being provisioned. In some time, this will be provisioned, and I'll show you that demo page as well. Let's see what has happened to our EC2 instance. Okay, it's still provisioning. It's turning on. What about this? Running. Okay, wow. So this has started running my WordPress. This is my public IP that they have provisioned. Let's see what page it shows. I'm going to run this public IP. So it doesn't have a DNS name yet. It's just a public IP. Once it is provisioned, it will show me a demo page as well. Maybe it's still provisioning. One sec. I think it's still working in the backend to provision the infrastructure. Let's wait for a couple of more seconds. Meanwhile, let's look at this. I clicked on the wrong refresh. I should click the refresh of the console over here. Okay, now it's up and running. So you have this public IP. I'll have to whitelist my IP to see that, by the way. So I'm not going to show my IPs or anything of that sort right now. So this is my instance. Now it's up and running. You can go ahead and do an SSH on this. You can whitelist your IP so that you can do an SSH using the keys that we downloaded and start working. So you've not invested any upfront amount, and then you start, but you still have the servers running. You can go ahead and do your experimentation. And once the work is done, you can go ahead and terminate it, right? You want to see the disk attached to this. So you see we had attached certain disks. Let's see that these are the two volumes. You can give them a name. This is your OS disk. This is your data disk, right? Where's my WordPress site? Is it up? Okay, so it's coming up. So here we go. Hello world. That's the tradition. Whenever you do anything new for the first time, you're writing your first code, you're spinning up your first infrastructure, make sure you write this hello world. Otherwise, you will be cursed. Okay. So yes, my WordPress site is up, and I've not invested anything with just few click. I don't have to worry about the infrastructure. Do you see this? I don't have to really worry. Did I create any network? Did I create any storage or anything of that sort? Did I install any operating system? Nothing. With few clicks, my WordPress site is up and running. I can do an SSH, go and start accessing my cPanels and start designing my WordPress site. That's it. Your next tech event, make sure that you use this light sale service and host your promotion page on AWS. Okay. Let's go ahead and terminate this. I'll stop this. Then I'll go ahead and delete it as well. Let's go ahead and terminate my instance as well. If I keep this running, I will have to pay, right? Because it will go outside my free tier limit. I'm now terminating it, which means it will delete everything, including the EBS. You'll have to do those settings. So if you have not done the setting properly, and if you have terminated the instances, and the EBS disk might still remain over there, and you'll be surprised to see the bill, because AWS will always charge you for whatever you're using. If you are doing a mistake of not deleting and decommissioning your services, then you will have to pay the bill. I mean, there's no way out, right? I mean, AWS cannot come and force you to stop that, because how would they know whether you need it or not? So there are ways you can keep doing housekeeping periodically through cloud management platform to understand if there are any wasted resources that are lying around, and keep doing the cleanup. Otherwise, you might end up paying a huge amount, right? So this is what I've done, and now I will go ahead and delete this, because I don't want to pay for this either. Let me show you the billing console meanwhile. Here I go. This is my billing dashboard. Zero last month, this month forecasted zero. I'm doing all my demos and experiments, everything within the free tier. As I said, when you create an account, make sure you understand the free tier very clearly to understand what services eligible for free tier, and if it is eligible, for what amount of time it is eligible for free tier. And as long as you adhere to that, you will not pay anything, even a single penny. And you can see that in my account itself. Okay, let's do the chatbot, the last demonstration, and then we'll go back to our presentation. Let's start with the Lex service. And let me call out that I'm not going to integrate this with any application. I will just spin up that service, and in the test console itself, I will show you that how for certain utterances there is an automated response. I will take you back a little bit to highlight again that if I have to spin up a chatbot service, I will actually have to have an operating system, and then the right type of application softwares, so that I can write the code for the chatbot application first of all. Then I will go ahead, once my chatbot is up and live, then I will go ahead to write the utterances, responses, and basically train and model my chatbot. But what I'm doing over here is, right from the first moment, I will of course pick up one of the, you can create a custom bot, or you can try a sample one. I'm going to spin up one of the sample ones to create, let's say, to book a trip. Okay. And I'm not writing anything for my chatbot. I'm just going to, right? You can do sentiment analysis. That's a very good thing. It uses AWS Comprehend to perform sentiment analysis on the text or the speech input. So you can do a chatbot with a text or a speech as well. You can integrate your Alexa to this and have a speech-based chatbot. Rules and all are required, as I had mentioned at the very beginning, that rules are required to allocate the right type of permissions so that the services can access each other. So you have to give your consent over here that this is not going to this bot is not subject to Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Go ahead and create. Just few seconds, I selected my use case and I started my chatbot. In your, I mean, as an experiment or as an R&D, you can go ahead and create a chatbot for your college's admission, right? So next time when the admission comes up, why not create a chatbot and integrate this particular chatbot on the landing page of your college website, and let the students do all the inquiry related to admission and from that chatbot. So if somebody has query, when are the forms going to be distributed, when will be the cutoff date, when is the induction date, your orientation and induction date, and then many other things. They might want to know a little more about the department, so they can post all their queries on the chatbot and start. You can do that for your college as an experiment. As you see, I said that you can create, or now I don't have to really write the chatbot. I have to focus on creating the utterances. I can integrate Lambda scripts. You remember we spoke about serverless application. I can integrate my Lambda script such that for a particular response, it should execute an activity. Let's say, for example, someone is saying that I want a copy of the college brochure. So what should the chatbot reply in response? Yes, please, here it is. And then in the back end, it will execute the Lambda script, which will download that, which will generate a URL to your college brochure, and it will give that URL to the chatbot, and chatbot will display it in the chatbot console. Just a use case. Now, this is this is already modeled. It's a pre-configured chatbot. So all this prompts and slots, everything has been created. Now let's see what this chatbot does. I see a hi. Can you see my console? Sorry, what can I help you with? I would say booking. What can I help you with? I need to book. I don't know what has been feeding over there. What are they? Okay, so these are the sample utterances. Okay, so I have trained my. So this is how modeling of the chatbot happens. Could we are feeding this wrong inputs? So this is how the modeling of a chatbot happens. As you gather more and more inputs from the users of the chatbot, you will understand that how to further model it. Now, let's say, for example, you have modeled these utterances: make a car reservation, reserve a car, book a car. But you have not modeled, you have not added the sample utterance of booking. The other user might just want to use, the user wants to engage into a monologue, just one word, booking. So let's pick up the ones which is already there. Reserve a car. Which city do you want to drive this? Let's say Vegas. Vegas is the place where AWS will host its reInvent, the largest tech event on the globe every year in the month of November, December. What day do you want to do this? I want to do it on a Monday. What day do you want to return the car? Tuesday. I want to do it on a Tuesday. How old is the driver of this rental? So it is asking me whether, just to ensure that I'm having the legitimate license. Let's say I will not put my real age. I'm 28 years old. Okay. What type of car would you like to rent? The most popular options are economy, mid-size, and luxury. Let's go for a luxury car. I have you down for a luxury rental Vegas from this day to this day. Should I book the reservation? Yes, please. Here is the reservation detail. Now, so easy it is to use a chatbot and get a lot of things accomplished. As I said, try it out for your college. Think of use cases, admission inquiry, or your event. As I said, when you host your WordPress event promotion page, have a chatbot integrated to it to share a lot of information and address a lot of queries. I'm not going to publish this or something. Let's go back. Let's go ahead and delete this. Okay. So that's with the demo. Why did I demonstrate deletion of the services? To prove this last point. Let's say I was building a chatbot. I've invested in servers, operating system, licenses of many other applications, which supports all this chatbot application development. But at the end, the chatbot didn't really. I mean, the chatbot is running successfully, but it is not able to generate the right amount of business traction that I had expected, which means it's a failure for the business. I mean, the business would not want to give you any more funds, saying that, I mean, we don't want this chatbot to be running. But if this was done on premise after stopping the chatbot, either you use it for some other application or that resource will lie down wasted. But here, what did I do? Since if something was not working, I deleted, and now I will proceed further. So that's with the demonstration part. Let's now focus upon what is the career outlook as an AWS professional. Okay, I really like this topic. First, let's have some statistics. This is a World Economic Forum statistic in 2018, and this is a prediction for the year for until 2022. This statistic shows technology-wise adoption across the enterprises. So it is expected by 22, enterprises will adopt 85% of big data analytics, app and web, IoT, artificial intelligence and machine learning by 73%, cloud computing by 72%, blockchain by 45%. So you see the adoption of technology is going to be enormous. For cloud computing, I have highlighted over here, it's going to be 72% by the end of year 2022, right? Now, some statistics for Indian cloud market. It is currently at 2.2 billion. And so I've added the source over here as well. You can go ahead and read that article on Economic Times. And by end of 2020, it's going to be $4 billion. And there's going to be 1 million cloud computing jobs by end of 2022. And there is only one qualified candidate for 100 job positions. So that's the scarcity, the dearth that would be created in this domain. So that's why AWS promotes a lot of these certification, the learning programs, so that there is adoption of this platform in the students, the engineering students who are ready to go out in the market, and they would be part of the next workforce, the technology workforce and the technology professionals, right? Profiles like cloud architect, cloud software engineer, cloud enterprise architect, and the infrastructure engineer. These would be the popular profiles that would be open in the market. Here is a very important point that I thought I will cover in today's session. Was not really part. Otherwise, what is the impact of COVID-19 on cloud computing? We all know that COVID-19 has pushed the entire globe into an economic slowdown. We are already into the recession, and it's only going to get dark. I mean, in fact, right now, there is no visibility of what is going to happen next. We are still grappling, and we are very slowly coming out of it. And as I said, hopefully, we will surely come out of it strongly. But what happens to the global economy after that? There's going to be a slowdown. The industries are going to be badly hit: retail, manufacturing, consumer goods, consumer durables, every industry. This is not a time when only one particular industry will be hit, but everybody will be hit at the same time, except one industry. And not that because we are talking about cloud today, I'm talking about this, but it's a fact, and I will prove it to you why. Cloud industry, and particularly the IT domain, which focuses on cloud and which focuses on security. I mean, please make a note of this, that apart from cloud, security is one domain which is really going to open up the market. And this is going to do really well, while every other industry on the globe is going to suffer, right? And they are going to, I mean, I should not say suffer, I should say the businesses are going to bleed. But now, when this COVID-19, the entire issue started, right? Go back to the time when the lockdown was announced, and you must have heard in the news, read in newspapers, that every corporate is now asking the employees to work from home. Of course, you cannot shut down the business. You have to have the IT running. Today, your stock market is running. Today, your hospital applications are running. Your online banking services are running. All of this, your grocery online applications are running. Your Amazon, your Big Basket, everything is running. Why? Because the IT workforce is still keeping them live. And why is it all up and running? Because all of this is hosted on cloud. Imagine if this was hosted on premise, and during this time when the lockdown has been announced and all the IT professionals are working from home, if there was a hardware failure, was there a solution? Imagine the amount of challenges one would have faced to replace that hardware. But now AWS and the other public cloud providers, because they have built this huge size of infrastructure, which is fault tolerance, which is highly available. All of these applications are up and running. Companies, corporates do not really have to worry about availability of the infrastructure. All they have to focus upon is availability of their application. Now, this has started an altogether new opportunity for the cloud world. Once the lockdown has eased out, every company will be short of funding because their businesses are bleeding, which means they will have to reduce the cost. And the best way to reduce the cost is moving on to the cloud. And mind you, I'm not saying cloud is cheap. Cloud is very costly if it is not rightly implemented and if it is not rightly managed. But if you do that in the correct form, then cloud is going to get a lot of benefits, enormous benefits, which is why companies are going to move on to the cloud. You must have seen, take a case again. I go back to the point wherein all of this workforce have been asked to work from home. What was the best and the secure method to access the corporate data? Virtual desktops. Will you allow anybody to download all their application on their personal laptops at home? No. What did the companies do? They just used the virtual desktop service of AWS. Let me just show it to you. Of course, I'm not going to spin it up, but just let me name that service. It's called Workspace Desktops in Cloud. See this? So I've created Windows desktops on cloud. I've allowed my users, my IT users, my business users to connect to this desktops on cloud, and these desktops in cloud are connected securely to my application. Now I can do all my work from home without storing any information on my personal desktop, because I have to be, corporates have to be very careful about the data security, right? Believe me, within the first few weeks, we have seen here in Mumbai region itself, thousands and thousands of deployments of these workspaces and this virtual desktop solutions on cloud. This has opened up an altogether new avenue for business on cloud. Corporates will change their policy. They will encourage work from home, and corporates which have not adopted cloud, now they will be aggressively looking at migrating to cloud, implementing their disaster recovery plans on cloud, so that, let's say, if there's still time for them to migrate on cloud, at least their DR should be running on cloud, so that if something happens to the on-premise infrastructure, the disaster recovery infrastructure should be up and running on cloud. So all of this has really opened up a great opportunity for cloud, which means jobs in cloud and these jobs profiles in cloud will be in abundance. Right now, there's a shortage of skill set in the public cloud domain, right? So stay focused on this. One thing I want to be very upfront about a fact that how should you look at the cloud career? I personally never recommend anyone to become a cloud engineer alone. Cloud, please understand that cloud is just a platform. Okay, it is an orchestration layer built on top of the infrastructure technology. I would always recommend that you learn to become a developer on cloud, right? So that focus on becoming an AI/ML engineer, a data scientist, a security expert, and make sure that you learn all of this in conjunction with the public cloud. Reason being, since everything is going to be running on cloud, you should, as a developer, know how to use this cloud services. You should know how to integrate this cloud services. You should know how to write code around these cloud services. And if you are, if you have chosen the track of being an AI/ML, a data scientist, engineer, or an AI/ML engineer, you should learn your concept, your technologies, and see how you can deploy that on cloud, how you can use cloud, leverage cloud to build better and better models, better and better solutions in AI and ML. If you are interested in security, becoming a security expert, learn security of cloud, security around cloud. How do you design securely? How do you provision securely? How do you manage the identity services in a secure fashion? So your focus should be development or any of your interest in conjunction with the public cloud platform, your AWS cloud platform. You have to learn and understand AWS cloud platform. Only then you will be enabled to take yourself forward in the domain in which your interest lies, right? That is why AWS is cloud. I will never, and I have never advised anyone to become a cloud engineer right away after their college. I have always advised, and I will continue to say, that you focus on your skill set, your interest, but do not miss out on cloud. If you're not using cloud platform, if you're not aware of it, you will fail, because you will not be able to use these native capabilities at all, and then you would not be the preferred candidate, in these companies. So that's about the career outlook. Just a moment. AWS training and certification. I will just be taking you through some of the links over here. There's a free learning available, and then there's a hands-on available. As I said, I'll just take you to these links. One second. Learning. Okay. All you have to do is the link that I have given over here. You can just go ahead to this digital library, digital courses of AWS. You can see over here, you have courses. These are all free courses, by the way. You can choose your language. You can choose your role, whether you are an architect or a business professional, cloud practitioner, data engineer, data scientist, developer, or you are an operations, infra operations engineer. Choose the role of your choice and of your interest. And then the domain, right? Domain is all the set of services. Let's say someone is interested in machine learning. Click on this machine learning, and you'll see a lot of free courses, video courses. This is a 30 minutes course on AWS SageMaker, which is a machine managed services, which allows you to train and model your machine learning. Then you have the basics, AWS batch, a lot of things, right? These are all free learning services. You can go ahead and use this. This is the best place to start. Please start, use this library, go through the fundamentals first, understand what is AWS Cloud, understand more about the basic building blocks, basic services, and then you can go ahead to choose a service of your choice, or choose a domain of your choice, and then learn further into that. AWS also provides a lot of free tutorials, right? You can again see over here, Amazon Getting Started Hands-on Labs. These are the hands-on labs. How to host a static website, launching a Linux machine. Let's just a moment. What is there in machine learning? Okay, lot of hands-on tutorials. These are all tutorials. Introduction to deep learning model, detecting and analyzing and comparing faces, right? Your video analytics, adding voice to your WordPress website. There's so many things, the multiple stuffs. Good way to start. Okay, so go through these courses on this digital learning platform, then go ahead with the hands-on tutorials. You may start with the basic services, and then you may go ahead to deep down into the services of your choice and of your interest. Okay. Of course, you would be required to create a free tier account. I really do not recommend to do it that way. Imagine accidentally you have spun up a service which is very costly, or let's say if you have spun up a service and you forgot to clean that up, you forgot to delete and terminate that, you will end up paying. So it's better that you go to some of the other sites called Quick Labs. Quick Labs is a very good platform. You can go over here. You have to create an account, and you have to purchase their subscription. They charge you some monthly subscription. They have some pricing model. I do not know much about that, but you can go over here and they have catalog of a lot of services. And in fact, this is a multi-cloud platform. You can do a lot on your AWS as well. We just open, right? Big data on AWS, security on AWS, programming, serverless designs, right? So there are a lot of such labs over here. So once you have subscribed, you can use their labs on n number of times, unlimited number of times, without running the risk of paying or rather overpaying or paying a huge amount of a surprise. Avoid those surprises. Okay. And then there are other online courses as well. One of the platform, I mean, by the way, this is not an official endorsement, but it is my personal recommendation. You can go ahead and use Linux Academy. It's a very good platform. There are tons of courses and free labs. So again, you have to subscribe on a monthly model, and then you can do n number of labs across all. So you have your machine learning specialty, network and security specialty. You have the basic certifications and everything of that sort available on that platform. Okay. Certifications. Let me take you to the certification page and give you an overview of this. So these are the certification paths. Okay. This is the foundational certification. I would recommend you start with this. This will help you understand the basics of cloud and become well versed with the terms and terminologies, concepts of cloud. and then you can focus on any of the associate level certification. I would recommend that you start with the developer associate certification. This is not because it's easiest, but because it will give you a good overview of how you can use a lot of development platforms integrated with the cloud. And then because you would be certainly doing a lot of projects, a lot of development projects, so it would be a good idea if you can do your development projects on AWS and then go through this certification. Then you can further proceed to deep dive on a solution architect course. And then of course up to your choice after that. At the associate level, I would recommend that you start with the cloud practitioner, you do your developer course, and then if you want to do a deep dive of the entire AWS infrastructure, you do solution architect. This is, by the way, one of the most comprehensive and the best certification, most widely attempted certification, because this particular certification of AWS solution architect course associate is something which covers the breadth of all the services. Anybody going through this particular course, through the certification, will understand quite a lot about the AWS platform. So it is also a very highly recommended certification, right? Then if you want to get into system operations and everything, then you can further go ahead and do a SysOps admin as well. You have specialization if you want to further specialize into solution architecture space, or with a developer background or a sysops background. If you want to further specialize into DevOps and automation, then you can go ahead with this professional certification. These are some specialities: networking specialty, security, Alexa specialty, machine learning specialty, data analytics and databases. So again, depending upon your interest, depending upon your strengths and capabilities, you can go ahead and attempt these certifications, right? What else is there on this page? I think there was something else which I want. Okay, learning path. This is just a guideline. This is a very good page. I typically use it sometime, when you have to plan your profile. Let's say if you want to plan your profile as a developer or as a DevOps and automation engineer, as an operation engineer, what is it that you should be really looking at? What is it that you should be reading about? What are the certifications that you should be doing? So all of that is given over here. Someone who wants to do a machine learning, let's just click this for the sake of understanding. So if, let's say if someone someone wants to tread onto the path of being a machine learning professional on AWS Cloud, what is it that one should be looking at? 1 second, let it load. Okay, now there are multiple paths, whether you are a business decision maker in this domain, or a data platform, or a data scientist. Let's focus on this data scientist path under machine learning. What is recommended? So here's the path. Okay, they say that start with the elements of data science, then do some capstone real-time projects, learn the machine learning data readiness. So here are the paths. I may not be able to speak more on this because this is not my domain, but it is giving you an overview of how you should plan your journey if you want to tread onto the path of being a machine learning professional, right? So that's what it is. So these paths are very useful. Someone who's operations engineer, what should they do? Let's have a look at that as the last one. Start with the technical essentials, do the system operations on AWS, appear for the exam readiness course, and do the SysOps certification, things of that sort. Then there is an optional AWS Cloud certified cloud practitioner certification, all that you have to do. So if you, let me just take you back to the certification page. This is not a prerequisite for anyone, the cloud practitioner. It is still recommended so that you understand the basics of it. But to do a professional certificate, you have to have one associate certificate. This is a prerequisite. So what is below this is a prerequisite. And once you have done an associate certification, you can do your specialty certifications as well, right? Yes, these are paid certifications. When you go on to register that, you will be guided accordingly. Okay. So learning paths, certification paths, you have to go through that. One very important thing, have I included it in the slide? Yes. So this event used to happen every year here in our Nesco ground, Goregaon. We have the Mumbai exhibition ground. This was hosted every year, and like all the years, it was hosted this time as well. But due to COVID-19, they have cancelled it, and all the summits will this year will be hosted online. I highly recommend. In fact, I request you all to go and register for this online, because there's a lot that you'll be learning. Look at the agenda of this session. Okay, 1 second. You have 40 sessions across 10 tracks. There will be 10 different tracks will be running. You can choose the track of your choice. As I said, you want to be an infra, you want to get into infra, into data science, into development. So there'll be multiple tracks which will be there. Each track will be having multiple sessions. You can attend those sessions and get more details about it. There is an experiential zone. There's a live chat that's going to happen, resource center, deep racer league. I really love this, and I'm very sure you guys will also like and start exploring it. I won't be surprised that after learning about this, in your next tech event, your next tech day, you would be running these deep racer cars on the track. So what is this deep racer? It's a modeling. It's a 3D racing simulator, completely autonomous race car, right? So I've just opened this. So deep racer is available, a little costly, but a great thing to play with. You can do a simulation of the tracks. You can do AI. You can feed in a lot of machine learning models into this as per the tracks. You can do simulations and then have your car do the machine learning model. And then there's a league that is going to be hosted, as you see over here, the Deep Racer League that will be hosted over here. So please go ahead and register for this. Be a part of this amazing event. It's a global event. There'll be speakers. There will be specialists all over the globe who will be online and will be sharing their knowledge, and they will be answering your questions. You will be able to connect with a lot of like-minded people. It's a great learning. So here's a list of featured speakers as well. The CTO of Amazon. And then let's see, okay, is there any track? So there's an innovation with Amazon track, enterprise transformation. There's a track for developers, building serverless application, a 30-minute session, supersonic serverless on Java, database freedom, things of that sort. Machine learning's multiple tracks, track 1 and track 2. Best practices, deep dive into data lake formation, lot of things, right? So you can choose your tracks, you can choose the session you want to join and take advantage of this. So there'll be introductory session, not that this is only for advanced users. This is for everybody, for beginners up to the expert levels. There will be introductory sessions, intermediate, advanced, and expert. Why they have mentioned this is because what you can do is you can choose a track of your choice and of your interest, and then choose the sessions wherein you will start with the introduction, and then further you will scale up and choose the sessions accordingly, right? Go ahead. It's free, by the way. I should mention it. It's a free service, a free session. So please go ahead and register it. If this was offline, you would have enjoyed it more. This year they had planned to host a 2-day event, and believe me, they gave a lot of the freebies and gifts. I really like collecting all of that. They they distribute a lot of freebies and gifts with your AWS logo, which you can now go ahead and swag about it. So go ahead and register it, and also experience the deep racer part, right? Let's see what else I have in store. Okay, man, great. We are at the end of the session. I will very quickly play the thank you note, and then we will go ahead to the Q&A section. I hope I have been whatever I shared, I've tried to be as informative as possible. I tried to share as much as I could in this short period of time. I only hope that this was value for your time, and your feedback would encourage us to conduct many such sessions, so that we can build a community. CMI has been doing this for a long time. They have been hosting a lot of events. They have been hosting, as you'll go on the website, you'll see that Cloud Management Insider runs a very exclusive community for public cloud platforms. So stay connected with them. As an outcome of this, we mentioned that you'll get a certificate of participation. There's a link in the chat panel that you can access. Fill in that, and you'll be able to access your certificates of participation after filling that form. And also, once you have filled in the form with that registration detail, the CMI team will be giving you exclusive access to the CMI platform. You will get a platform to read, to share, to collaborate, to contribute, and all the upcoming, you will get notification for all the upcoming events. We will be encouraging participation in form of contributions, and of course, I mean, CMI has a lot of programs and plans running to reward such top contributors. So you can take advantage of that as well. Do also subscribe to the channel, the CMI channel. We're just looking forward to that as well. So I would before the thank you note, I'd like to thank CMI, and I'd like to thank all the attendees for their time and energy spent in this online boot camp, and I'm really looking forward to connect with you all again. Thank you very much. Let me play this thank you note on behalf of Ahmed Sabo Siddiq College.
As we are about to conclude our session, I'd like to thank Cloud Management Insider, our speaker, Mr. Amit Kumar Pandey, for sharing some interesting insights. The director of M.H. Sabu Siddique College of Engineering, Dr. Mohiddin Ahmed, our principal, Dr. Ganesh Kame, our event convener, Dr. Zainab Pirani, HOD of the Department of Computer Engineering, our event coordinator, Professor Ahlam Ansari, and the entire team of Programmers Club Think Code. And lastly, all the students for attending the bootcamp and making it a successful event.
So give me a minute or so before we wrap this up, and we will do the Q&A session. I'm just waiting for my team to post it because I'm not able to view it on my console. Give me a minute or so. We can then start with the Q&A session as well. Okay, so I have a question from Delzine asking, with respect to the example you gave about Netflix, what if the content search is not in the cache memory? So that's a very common thing. So the way caching works is if something is not in the cache will go ahead to the central data repository and fetch it. For the first time when it is accessed, it will fetch it and store it in the cache memory. And then next time when a user is requesting that, it will start serving it from the cache. It's like a cache hit and miss, right? Which we have learned. It works in the same fashion. Then the next question I have is from Khan Muhammad. He's asking about, how do you develop a career in cloud computing from scratch? Can you provide suggestion and the resources for same companies in India which are providing jobs in cloud computing domain? So we've discussed about how to develop a career in cloud computing. I will reiterate the fact that I do not want you to focus only on cloud computing. Pursue the interest of your interest, and see that how can you develop that particular technological aspect or the career track on the cloud. If you want to become a data scientist, how do you become a data scientist using the cloud services? How do you become an operations or an infrastructure engineer using the public cloud? So public cloud has to be it is a mandatory skill set which you have to acquire. As far as the resources for training and hands-on is concerned, we spoke about the digital library, the hands-on tutorial page, and then we also spoke about the certification path. One last point that is asked over here is companies in India which are providing cloud computing jobs. Every company, let me reiterate, every company has a cloud job. Think of the largest global system integrators and think of the smallest company. Let's say there's a company which has nothing to do with cloud, but they are developers. They are a startup, or they're a company which is only a pool of developers. Even they will have a cloud job because the developers will eventually be using cloud services to develop their application. So every company is going to have a cloud opening. I am very confident to quote that non-IT companies also have cloud openings. Think of a manufacturing company which has its own IT department. Every manufacturing company, retail company will have their own IT department. Since their infrastructure and application is going to migrate on cloud, even they will have an opening for a cloud engineer. So cloud, just like developers and infra engineers earlier, that profile will still be there, but on cloud. So the amount, the number of job openings and the companies that would be providing is only going to increase. Okay, I hope I've answered that. Then I have a question, Arlene Kaur Arora, asking that I am sure AWS is far more efficient, but is it pocket friendly? Very good question and very rightly observed. So not just AWS, any public cloud platform is not cheap, or it is not, I should say, it is costly. It is cost efficient only when you use it correctly. I'll give you an example. If you have spun up a server, okay, which is being used by your users only for 12 hours, it's your development environment. And if you're running that development server for 24 hours, you are creating that wastage. Then how will cloud be ever be a low cost service? You have to plan your infrastructure in order to avoid wastage, in order to constantly review and right size the infrastructure. You should not be wasting the core and the RAM provision. If you see there is no utilization, stream it, scale it down, trim down the core and the RAM, because on the cloud you can anytime scale it up. So do the right sizing, choose the right payment model as well. AWS and every cloud platform has different payment models. One is an on-demand, pay as you go, and then you have a reserved instance model as well, wherein when you're sure that you're going to run an infrastructure 24/7, let's do a commitment of 1 year or a 3 year, in either in upfront or a non-upfront model, and save 20-30% on that, because that is where you get discounts. It's like subscribing. It's like, you are using a particular service saying that I want to just pay monthly, but then the same channel would say that why don't you pay, take a annual membership so that you can get a 20% discounts. It's like that. So a combination of right sizing, a combination of right payment model, basically cost optimization, and then controlling your resource wastage, all of this has to be put together to run an efficient infrastructure, cost-effective infrastructure on the cloud. At the same time, if you continue to run everything on the servers, you will end up paying for the infra, you will end up paying for the licenses. Start adopting cloud native services. Like for example, a chatbot. I have two options. I can spin up a server, install my operating system and the required application environment, and run that service on that. I will end up paying for the license of the operating system and the servers. But the other option that you saw in the demonstration, I just went and used the Lex service, which is a native capability of cloud. I'm going to pay very less on that. I will be paying only for the number of text requests that are going to land on my chatbot, and not paying for my server 24/7. So you have to strategize it effectively to make it low cost. Okay, I think I stretched it a lot. Then I have a question. I'm really sorry, I'm not able to read your name correctly. Probably this is a nickname he has posted on YouTube. AWS Lambda. Okay, let's not compare different cloud platforms. I would want to avoid confusion over here. But like AWS has Lambda, yes, the Google and the Azure will also have a serverless service. I will cut it only until there. Then I have Aditya Karya, who's asking, according to you, just focusing on the cloud is a bad idea. Yes, I'm reiterating. If you just become a cloud engineer and you do not have an understanding of application, how applications are developed, if you do not have an understanding of what is security, what is operating system, you would never be able to achieve any use case on that. You look at it. I mean, you just go ahead and spin up the services without any context. Who is it that is going to handle the context? If I have, let's say, a person who, take my example, I'm not a machine learning or a data scientist. I may know how to spin up the SageMaker services, but what more can I do with that SageMaker service? If I do not know machine learning concepts, if I do not know AI concepts, if I'm not able to apply any data science concepts. So yes, you have to always combine it. All I'm trying to say is you cannot afford to miss out on being a cloud engineer also. You have to know cloud. That's a mandatory skill set now. Or rather, I should go ahead and say that it's the basic skill set now that you need to have on top of anything else. Okay. Are online cloud certifications of practical use in the industry? That's a very good question. So let me call out that all these certifications, the way it has been planned is it focuses on real-time scenarios. So when you read, when you learn, and when you appear for these exams, it focuses only on practical applications, practical use cases. These exams are full of real-time scenarios. You'll get a use case, and then there will be an answer which is based on use case, saying that in XYZ condition, what would you use? How would you solve? It is all use case based. So while you learn for these certifications, you only reinforce the concept to understand it better and better, right? So that's why it is useful in the industry. Then I have so this question was from Sagar Mahmunkar. Sorry if I'm reading it wrong. Pradeep Ramola is asking, Amazon EC2 is only used to create servers. Yes, EC2 is a service. It's a service. It's a compute service. Yes. Umesh Lodha is asking, what about IoT in AWS? So I showed you there are tons of services on IoT. You can integrate. There's an IoT button also from AWS. You can integrate it with AWS. You can integrate it with all the other third-party IoT devices so that you can stream all the telemetry, the data inputs, and do a lot of analysis on top of it. So yes, IoT services are available. So the last two questions that I'm going to take, because we are approaching the slot. Sonu Pandit is asking, first, should I get started with AWS or Azure as a fresher? I would not talk about the other cloud platforms much, but then let me be honest. You start with any public cloud platform, actually. The concepts are same. It's just that the terminologies would be different. And yes, the way it would be provisions, there would be some features here and there which would be different. But you can start with any of the cloud platform. AWS being the first to start this public cloud platform. I should not say first, but they were the early movers, and they are the first public cloud platforms adopted globally, being the leaders. The amount of innovation, the amount of features that they provide is something which is unparalleled and really far ahead of the other competitors. You've seen it in the Gartner's quadrant as well. You get a lot of options, to learn and study over there. And plus, these services has been built in with by combining a lot of real-time experience from the industry. Being the early movers, they have the advantage of having more and more use case of failures, so that they can build a service around it. So it's a good thing to start with AWS. I would of course recommend AWS to start with. And the last question for this is, what about machine learning course provided by AWS? Sir, is the course free? Please tell me something about it. So yes, I had shown it. I can go again to this. Let's just search machine learning. These are all free. You can see over here. Let me just click on, let's say, click on foundations. You see over here, this is a free course. All you have to do is create a sign-in. This is a free course. So all these courses which is available, this is all available for free line. It's free online. It's a very good way to start. But if you want to really specialize into something, as you said, the certificate, as I mentioned, the certifications and all that, I will go ahead to quote, and I'm again saying I'm not endorsing any platform, but it is my favorite, personal favorite. Go ahead to subscribe to Linux Academy as well. It is a monthly subscription platform. You can, you all can pool in 5-10 students together. You'll end up only paying 100 or 200 rupees per month, and then start using it turn by turn. There is amazing course content and free labs on that platform, right? So that question was from Anjali Kumari. So we are almost at the end of the session, and I'm really thankful again to Amit Sabu Siddiq for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to engage with the student community. I'm very much thankful to the Cloud Management Insider team for providing us this platform. I wish all of you the very best for your career. Whichever platform you choose, make sure that you choose cloud as one of the mandatory skill sets. Looking forward to engage and connect with you all again. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel of CMI, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can pose your questions and queries on LinkedIn. I will try to, whenever, as I get time, as I'm online on LinkedIn, I will try to connect with you all, guys. Thank you very much, and great connecting with you. Stay safe and take care of yourself and family. Bye bye.